So if we were to go back even just 2 or 3 years ago and drop into a traditional marketing agency or work with a web designer or freelancer to build out a website for your offer, the process of what it looked like then and what it looked like now has changed absolutely night and day. There are so many tools and processes that have changed at each step in the process that have improved time to value, improved efficiency, and ultimately help us generate better products as a result for our clients. And there's been so many changes. Everything is moving super fast. But in a traditional agency, we have our four main steps. So we have strategy, discovery, and research. Then we move on to structure and wireframes. Then, after we have all of our information architecture laid out, so we know the client, we know their business, we know how it's going to be presented in an online presence via a very skeleton based, unrobust view of what the website will look like, depending on their industry. Like I said, we then move on to design and content. So if you're working with an agency, traditionally you would have all of this stuff sourced in house. So you have designers, developers, and content writers collaborating on one project with an account manager or project manager. We then move on to the build, launch, and grow phase. So everything from the development to launch and transfer to the client or maintenance of the website by the agency for ongoing marketing efforts. So traditionally, those are the four main steps of the traditional web design process. And when we sort of take a step out, we think, okay, how has AI helped us in each step of this process? What tools are we doing? How does this help us not just cut down on our billable hours to our clients, but also deliver a better product in the end? So that way we're working faster, we're catching more of that information, and we're better aligned on our goals. And we use tools in even this creative and design phase and also the development and launch phase to make sure that the product is moving, that the website is evolving, is constantly aligned with the client goals, and continues to be more beneficial for them in the future, again, at a lower cost. So I'm going to go through each of these four steps that I'm using in my process as a web designer and web design strategy studio owner here in Columbus, Ohio. But being a solo freelancer, I am very incentivized by making my process as efficient as possible. And so I'm always iterating on some of these tools, and I want to share with you guys today how AI is helping me in each of these four steps to accomplish all the goals aforementioned. So if we start here with our strategy, discovery, and research phase, step one, the AI enhanced way to capitalize on the old way. It starts at the client call. So we use tools like TLDV, what I use personally. It starts at that call transcript. You really want to make sure that you're capturing this central information about the client's businesses in the beginning. So that way you don't have to do the traditional agency model of continually billing for hours when you have reference to these transcripts that you can use to build a knowledge base and inform you through the rest of the project. Super important to align on goals, and that way the process is almost like an async reference you can have to the client all throughout the project. We feed transcripts into tools like Notebook LM and ChatGPT to do industry research. So Notebook LM is a great tool just for company research. You can get very aligned. You can aggregate a lot of information into a single source and basically become an expert on your client's industry, even passively. You can generate things like podcasts, and you're really leveraging AI to become an expert and reference transcripts, reference the industry, reference their services, how they're fitting into the target market, the trends that are going on, latest developments, etc. You can really impress clients by doing this too. In terms of intake and being relevant to the client, we use Moxie and ChatGPT agents, and also research projects is a big one. So for Moxie, we still require some type of client intake post a call. So what we do is we actually take those transcripts and we generate a custom form for input that clients can fill out asynchronously, and we can prompt it to then be a very tailored form with relevant questions and relevant fields to their industries. And that helps us not just that helps us not just be more efficient on the form creation side. We don't have to go over and develop a custom form. It also makes sure it's very aligned based on past conversations. So like I said, we're building on that knowledge base. ChatGPT Project is a great source to go in and use to create that central knowledge hub. You can pull from these tools that you're using in the beginning, like Google and like Notebook LM from Google, and you can take the transcripts of the research that you've done, further load it into ChatGPT for the research project, take those cost transcripts, dump it all in there, align it on your goals. You have a reference that you can build off in a positive way moving forwards. So sort of the next step, we have structure and wireframes. In the past, it looked like multiple wireframes, slow approvals, and a ton of manual UX work. This is probably one of the steps in the process that has changed arguably the most. How we're getting from a big knowledge base of information, unrefined, say a couple of client calls, just knowledge about their industry. This is the very first transition into an actual website presence. Okay, what are the pages we need? What are the messaging? How are we starting to structure copy? And how's that going to look in different sections on the website? This is the part of my process that has been probably the most robust, is getting from that 0 to 1 phase. I want to talk to you about some of the tools that I'm using and iterating on now. So again, we're always sort of referencing our knowledge base over here of the ChatGPT research project. Like I said, you can also do this in Claude too, but also having a central hub for your client is very important. So when we go back referencing our wireframing process here with an AI-enabled tools, first of all, we reference ChatGPT. We ask for recommendations for sitemaps. Reloom has a specific prompting guide. So what you can do is, I have a project in GPT where I can take transcripts from a call and automatically generate a prompt for Reloom that then I can then use to generate a sitemap. Reloom is a tool that, given context, given a really good prompt, it can generate the recommended pages and sample copy needed for your client's website. And this is a great tool. It's also a collaborative tool as well. So usually right after we do a project kickoff, we're almost instantly moving into phase 2 already. I come to a lot of client meetings first off and starting having already built these things. So really we're just breezing right past this phase onto the process and starting to iterate on already the website content, the strategy, and the call is really just a formality to better align and get feedback and general preferences. By the way, this Moxie form right here is a great way to align on client preferences, which is something I didn't mention. Send them links to web design inspiration, which is something that we'll talk about in the next step, and get their taste on different websites. You can much in a better way align. ChatGPT is very good at making competitors and industry research available now that I can search the web, obviously. So really crisp recommendation there in order to make sure that alignment is there at the beginning. And the biggest thing in this process is also rapid iteration. So we can use AI for feedback on sitemaps as well. So I always recommend having that ChatGPT or Claude project to say, okay, I'm going to feed you our sitemap and ask it how are we aligned with past conversations, with past dialogue, to really make sure that you're moving along on a positive path. A tool that we're also playing with right now is called UX Pilot. So UX Pilot is similar to Reloom in the sense that it can generate wireframes, but it's more optimized for creating flows. So if you think about the sitemap as the bigger picture strategy, UX Pilot is better for, it also has a design component too, which I'm not very bullish on because it doesn't do the job as good as some of these other tools later on in these steps. But what it can do is create recommended flows like login sequences, e-commerce flows, and start to generate visuals for different pages and wireframes, like low fidelity, that then you can then export and use as visual inspiration for some of these other tools that were mentioned in our next steps here. So that is the structure and wireframing piece in an AI age. We're moving a lot faster. We're better aligned from the beginning, and we're knocking our goals out of the park. In the design and content phase, this is where creativity can just take over. And this is the part that I enjoy the most as a designer. And it's also the way that I'm able to add so much more value to our clients because we're in that rapid iteration and testing phase. That's so much of what AI allows us to do, is that we can do this rapid information, especially in a creative space. Rapid iteration is very important because it allows you to get the bad out and find what good looks like. So we'll start with the outdated process. So the outdated process for design looked like separate teams for copy, design, endless revisions, disconnected creative vision. Like I said, every meeting that you have between each of these disjointed teams is just billable client hours. It's very inefficient. Content takes too long. It feels off brand because of a lack of communication, and it racks up unnecessary hours. You have disjointed handoffs, etc. A lot of nightmare stories coming from this. So our AI enhanced way is that, like I said, we have ChatGPT and Claude to generate first draft copy. We have our transcripts from our call recordings, and we have research summaries from Notebook LM that anyone on the team, or if you're solo, can access at any time and make sure that the project is aligned. We're using a bunch of new tools in this phase, and this is where the volume of tools and my process specifically has expanded a lot. We used UX Pilot a little bit for image generation. We use ChatGPT a lot for its image generation feature when you talk specific design enhancements. What we use ChatGPT a lot for now is something that I didn't mention here, is style guides. So style guides in ChatGPT are a really good thing to try. And what you can basically do is take the branding book, the branding guidelines, and load that into your ChatGPT project from the start. And you can start to create images and mockups based on a specific color code, specific brand voice, imagery, moods, colors, things like that. And it's, like I said, it dials in that alignment. Magic Path is a tool that I am testing a lot nowadays, and I'm somewhat bullish on it because it very much solves the prompt to actual development stage. So we develop all of our websites, in Webflow and Framer, which we'll talk about in our next step. But when you have a developed site that you can generate from a prompt, and it actually does a really good job of doing that, and I would highly recommend integrating some of these other tools and stacking on. The wireframes from UX Pilot and Reloom are very good sources of visual inspiration for Magic Path to go in and develop a rough draft of what an actual coded interactive site could look like. So you can actually pull this up in a browser. It's page right away. You can load it with all of your ChatGPT brand information. It's just a really good place to start. And we'll be iterating on this a lot more in the future. So I'm super excited to see what rollout plays. Obviously, the home of the site wouldn't live on the site that Magic Path develops. I don't see that being, even with other tools. So you'll notice I'm not mentioning like Bolt, V0, Lovable. I'm not mentioning these tools here because there's no reality where that is a foundation for a moving website moving forward. There's no way that that's the place for the business. It can be deployed, but it's not a really good source, especially if you're working with someone, a marketing team who wants to make updates, a founder who wants to make sure their website is accessible. You want to make sure that you have control of the editing environment and you're more in touch with what's going on. You can install scripts, etc. So another way that it's changed the design process is we have collaborative workspaces with less silos. So Figma AI is a great tool to where you can go in and collaboratively work together. This isn't as AI enabled or new. Figma has always been a collaborative tool. What you can actually do is use AI to start to amalgamate feedback and communications and then generate action items and next steps from there. So you can take all the comments, export them on a Figma file, plug them into your AI code base of choice, and then create action items for your team to go in and make improvements. It's also a great place for AI is helping us in visual inspiration and client alignment. It's also a great source for templates and pre-built design elements. So a place like Toolfolio is a really good design inspiration place where you can go in and recommend all these tools. I highly recommend Toolfolio. It can be a great place to reference templates and find things that are on point with your client needs and goals based on everything in the QA process that we've researched in the beginning. So the last step here is going to be the build, launch, and grow phase. The outdated model consists of hard-coded websites handed off to clients with no optimization layer. Any kind of change requires dev time, and there's no way to improve on the site. A lot of times it's a bit of a black box in terms of what's actually going on. And now AI is giving us a lot of tools to not just cut down on development time and iteration time, but also make sure that we know what's going on the site, and we have takeaways, we have analytics, and having insight into those analytics to then better inform future design changes, which we can now make faster. So when we talk about development specifically, Webflow, Framer, and other no-code builders are really changing the game. They really cut down on dev time. Webflow is a bit more technically advanced. Framer is very plug and play. It's a lot like Framer it's a lot like Figma, but with development capabilities looped in. Figma Sites is another platform that can develop on a code-free level, but I am not bullish on it because the code that it writes is basically code soup from everything I've seen. And it's still going to be really hard to make optimizations. You can't do a lot of the scalability activities that Webflow and even Framer is scalable to the point now where you can start to implement some custom features and build a marketing foundation from it. But if you want to build a scalable online platform, we always recommend Webflow. That's the platform that we build on. Microsoft Clarity and Hotjar are two tools that we're using to really track user analytics. And using AI to recommend changes and feedback based on the data that you're getting from these tools is absolutely essential. So what you can do is you can actually export data that you get from tools like Microsoft Clarity, like Hotjar, and then you can feed them into your AI and ask them, okay, these are the stats that we're getting in terms of page load time, scroll depth, click maps, and rage clicks. And it can make recommendations based on industry standards and how you can improve those over time. So, like I said, we're not just cutting down on our building and launch time, but we're also growing the site with these analytics, and we have better tools in place to make that a reality and possibility. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Again, I hope you guys learned something from this. Also connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to see how I'm iterating on my design process using AI. I'm always on the cutting edge and trying to learn new things with the community with you guys. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.